Hi, Goddess Norphiles here again, and my pronouns are they, them, she, him. Today, I want to give you a bit of history about Berlin, something that comes directly from where I am based for the past 5 years. When I first arrived to Berlin, I realized that there was a series of protests for this street called Mohrenstrasse. And I remember when I first saw the name, it was called Imstrasse. Mohr is a word to describe someone with dark skin. It's a very awful term. It's also synonymous with the word slave. It turned out that there had been protests about this street name for several years. This all kind of goes down to like Berlin being a space where we all know was occupied by that awful human being named Adolf Hitler. After he was thrown out of power and ran into hiding like little bitch that he is, there was a denazification process where street names would be changed to names of people who are more empowering for the sciences that were not related to experimentation, human experimentational sciences. However, you still have street names here that are anti-Semitic or anti-Black. And the history of Mohrenstrasse is something crazy. The street was named back in 1707. It is believed that it was named this for several reasons. One is that there was this Moor who was in service of this one white dude, and because this white dude allowed him to build a house on the street, they called the street Mohrenstrasse. Another theory is that the entire street was basically slave headquarters, and there lies the name Mohrenstrasse. Another theory is that the leader of the Prussian Empire at the time, named Friedrich Wilhelm, he ordered 3 slave boys to come and be of service to him. Apparently, based on my history, it's very fashionable at the time to have Kammermähren, which is basically slave boys, like those who would just live in your house and just serve you. In Germany, the term Moor is a very degrading term. No streets should be named Mohrenstrasse, especially when it got the name because it was the street of the slaves. After years and years of protesting, finally the name changed to Anton Wilhelm Amo Strasse. This is like Germany finally recognizing that there was a leading philosopher that actually existed here and changed the course of philosophy as we know it. Or at least was somebody who was a key player in challenging what philosophy was at that time. So let's get into the history of who Anton Wilhelm Amo was. He was born in 1703 in the region of Axum, or a place near the coastal town which is now today's Ghana. So Ghana back in 1703 was very, very sought after for Europeans because it was a space that had gold, it was great for farming, it was great for so many things that the Europeans just greedily wanted to put their hands on. This region was actually occupied initially by the Portuguese and then moved into possession by the Dutch in 1642. When Anton Wilhelm Amo was born, he was under Dutch occupation. And so when he was about 3 or 4 years old, he and his brother Atta were taken to the Netherlands. Unfortunately, his brother was separated from him and was sent to Suriname. Anton Wilhelm Amo is taken to Amsterdam, and he is given as a present to Anton Ulrich. Anton Ulrich is the Duke of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel. Anton Ulrich is a purveyor of the arts and sciences, and he has one of the most impressive libraries. He gives Anton Wilhelm Amo one of his names, Anton. Anton Ulrich, Anton Wilhelm Amo. Anton Ulrich has a son named Wilhelm. Wilhelm also gives Anton Wilhelm Amo one of his names after Amo is baptized. Not much is known of Anton Wilhelm Amo's childhood besides the fact that because he had these folks who were patrons of him and protectors of him, it could be assumed that he was given access to many of the finest books and was in the presence of many of the finest thinkers. His patrons left him a good sum of money, so he was able to pursue an education. What we do know is that he did matriculate on June 9th, 1727 at the University of Halle. At the University of Halle, there's actually a handwritten note by Amo, which is very telling of his thought at the time, because as he signs this, he always has a signature of the African from Guinea. He gets his education there, and he continues his education primarily in philosophy, metaphysics, logic, and law. And he delivers his first university thesis in 1729 in Latin. His thesis is called The Disputation of the Legal Status of Moors in Europe. I would consider this piece a form of intellectual activism. In the thesis, he speaks about the Roman Empire and how the Roman Empire basically developed an entire set of rules based on law or mandate. He states that the Roman Empire declared themselves as kings and then made everybody else, and particularly the African people, their subordinates. So he said, how is that much different than Europe and how they determine what the legal status is of an African who comes here? This was incendiary for the Europeans because they had always believed that they were on this moral Christian system. But in this text, he was provoking the Europeans to think back on how they themselves are perpetuating a system of hierarchy, not based on merit, but based on simply declaring that they are better than, which earns him a Magister Legans, which is the equivalent of like a master's in law or a doctorate in law. Unfortunately, this writing has been destroyed, but there is a summary at the Halle University. His work definitely caused a stir. That's probably why he left the University of Halle and he went down to Saxony to study at the Wittenberg University. And there, after only a month of studying, he received his doctorate in philosophy. So while Amo was at Wittenberg University, he developed a lot of interesting philosophy of that time. His dissertation, De Humane Mentis Apatheia, which basically means the apathy of the human spirit, is something that stands in direct opposition to what his contemporary Renee Descartes was pushing at the time. Renee Descartes was saying that the spirit and the body were connected, and Amo was saying that the spirit and the body are not connected, and that it is the body that suffers, and it does not really affect what the spirit does. Amo posits directly to Descartes himself that if the soul is an immaterial substance, how could it feel and be affected by immaterial things? So Amo stays in Wittenberg for about 2 more years, and then he goes back up to Halle to write a treatise, the Treatise on the Art of Philosophizing Soberly and Correctly. And then he goes to Jena in the beginning of 1739. And while he was in Jena, he was granted the title of State of Council. He teaches philosophy, law, psychology, political science, medicine, astrology, cryptology, and techniques of divination. Amo was so intelligent that it is said that he spoke like 7 languages. So he goes back to Axum and he's reunited with his sister and his father again, and he acts as a soothsayer and sage. He tries to get his brother back, but he is unsuccessful. So in the 1960s, President Kwame Nkrumah is talking about Amo and how amazing he is, how intellectual he is, and how he was a significant player in the field of philosophy. And this gets word to Germany and it gets word to the Netherlands. And Germany commissions the University of Halle to erect a statue in the honor of Anton Wilhelm Amo. The statue depicts 2 African beautiful people who are a couple standing mightily and proudly in front of the university. So to end, I want to say a quote by Anton Wilhelm Amo. He says, "He who can accommodate himself to necessity is wise and has an inkling of things divine." Amo is a stark example of going into an institutional space and actually fucking it up and being able to break down barriers through thought alone.